Her parents kicked her out at 17 when she needed them the most. She built a new life from scratch, raised her son, and found strength in the family who stayed. Decades later, when they knocked at her door, she answered with a quiet grace they never expected. "My name is Malini Hayes. I was only 17 when my world shattered in two places. First, when the boy I thought I loved walked away without a backward glance. And second, when my own parents told me to pack up and leave. No goodbyes, no second chances. Just the sound of the door closing behind me in the dead of January. It all started like many high school stories do. Jake was the golden boy captain of the varsity soccer team, charming, with an easy smile and always a plan. I was the quiet one, a straight-A student who liked to sketch in the margins of her notebooks and dream of a life that felt more vibrant than the one I had. With Jake, I felt seen for the first time. We used to talk about moving in together after graduation, finding a tiny apartment downtown with terrible plumbing but huge windows. Maybe even starting a small cafe where I would design the menu and he would charm the customers. We believed in each other's dreams like they were gospel, but belief like that doesn't always last. By the time summer faded into fall, Jake had started to change. His texts grew shorter, the silences between them stretched longer. He began talking about internships at Stanford Law and opportunities in New York. Then, one October afternoon, as the leaves were burning red and gold, he ended things. Just like that. No fight, no tears. His hands shoved deep into his jacket pockets and a steady voice saying, "This isn't working anymore." He walked away, and I let him. I stood in the middle of the park path, scarf twisting in the wind. I didn't chase him. I didn't cry. Not yet. At that moment, I had no idea heartbreak was only the first storm. Jake and I had met back in sophomore year. There were no fireworks at first. He borrowed my pen in history class and never gave it back. That's how it began. From there, it became late-night phone calls, long walks home, and dreams shared over milkshakes at the local diner. We were young but spoke as if we had life all figured out. I still remember him leaning across the table, eyes bright, saying, "You and me, Maddie, we're going to make it big. Forget the rules." And I believed him. I'd doodle his name in the corners of my sketchbook, surrounding it with drawings of coffee mugs, apartment windows, and the little things we promised to share. It was naive, maybe, but it felt real. After graduation, everything shifted. Jake became distant. Our calls went from hours to mere minutes. His attention wandered even when we spoke. Every time I asked what was wrong, he'd brush it off with a quick, "I'm just busy." But busy slowly became disappearance. One day, I waited for him outside the library where he used to meet me. 45 minutes passed. He never showed. No text, no excuse. That's when I realized I wasn't part of his future anymore. A week later, we met at the park, the same place where we'd shared our first kiss. I thought maybe we could fix things. Instead, he ended it. "I have to focus on school," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "You deserve someone who's all in. Right now, that's not me." I don't remember what I replied. Maybe I didn't say anything at all. My heart was too loud in my chest to hear my own voice. After he left, I sat alone on a cold bench for what felt like hours. The wind tossed the leaves, and the world moved on even though mine had cracked open. But losing Jake wasn't the worst part. That came later. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was pregnant. And Jake would never know. The signs had been there: constant fatigue, nausea at the smell of coffee, jeans that suddenly didn't fit. I blamed stress, hormones, anything but the truth. But fear has a way of making itself heard. One Friday after school, I bought a pregnancy test, stuffed it into my coat, and paid in cash. At home, I locked myself in the upstairs bathroom. 2 pink lines. That was all it took to change everything. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, clutching the test, wondering what to do next. Would Jake come back if he knew? Could I hide this from my parents? Could I even do this at all? That night at dinner, everything looked normal: meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans. My dad read the paper. My mom hummed as she served food. But inside me, a storm was building. "I need to talk to you," I whispered. My dad lowered his paper. My mom froze mid-step with a casserole dish in her hands. I'm pregnant. The silence was deafening. Then came the shouting. You've disgraced this family, my mother hissed. You're not raising a baby under my roof, my father said coldly. Pack your things. You're out, I begged. I cried. It didn't matter. By the time I shut my bedroom door, I knew I had to leave. I had nowhere to go. I grabbed an old duffel bag, packed a few clothes, my toothbrush, and the only photo I had of Jake and me taken at the county fair, when forever still seemed possible. I paused at the door. My mom sat at the kitchen table, her face buried in her hands. My dad had already slammed the garage door shut. I'm leaving, I whispered. My mom looked up, eyes rimmed with guilt. Meline, please, think about this. I have, I replied, tightening my grip on the bag. You made it clear. I'm not welcome here. The cold January air bit at my skin as I stepped outside. I had no plan, no money, no Jake, no home. But one name echoed in my mind. Grandma Louise. She lived in Maple Falls, a quiet town 2 hours away. She'd always told me, if you ever need me, honey, call. I don't care what time it is. With numb fingers, I dialed her number. It rang twice. Then her warm, familiar voice answered. Hello, Grandma, I croaked. It's me. I need to stay with you. Can I come now? Without hesitation, she replied, of course you can. Get here safe. I'll put the kettle on. That was all. No questions. No judgment. Just love. I wiped my face, turned toward the bus stop, and started walking. I didn't know what awaited me in Maple Falls, but I knew who would be there, and that was enough. The Greyhound rolled into Maple Falls just after midnight. The station was nearly empty, the only light coming from flickering street lamps and a humming vending machine. I stepped off the bus, duffel bag weighing on my shoulder, feet crunching frost. My breath fogged. In the icy air, heart pounding in my ears. Grandma Louise's house was just 3 blocks away. I'd walked that path before as a child, holding her hand without a care in the world. Now, I wrapped my arms around my belly and moved through the dark, chasing a memory. Her porch light was glowing. The old porch sagged like always, swept clean. Little ceramic frogs lining the steps, one still missing an eye. Before I could knock, the front door swung open. There she stood in a faded robe with blue flowers and thick wool socks barely hanging onto her slippers. Her silver hair was tied into a messy bun, and her sharp gray eyes softened the moment they met mine. Without a word, she opened her arms. I collapsed into them, wrapped in the scent of cinnamon and old books. She felt smaller than I remembered, but her hug still felt like armor. Come inside, sweetheart, she whispered. Let's get you warm. The house hadn't changed. The plaid couch still sagged. The chipped teacups still lined the windowsill. A radio played soft jazz from the corner. Grandma always said that music made the house breathe. She handed me chamomile tea and a plate of leftover sandwiches. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I took the first bite. We sat in silence until I finally broke down. I messed up, Grandma, I whispered. Mom and Dad said I've disgraced them. I ruined everything. Tears filled my eyes. I'm pregnant. I'm scared. And I'm alone. Grandma didn't flinch. She leaned back, sipped her tea, and set it down firmly. A child isn't a disgrace, she said. It's a beginning. Sometimes a hard one, but still a beginning. And just like that, something inside me shifted. Maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I was just starting over. The days that followed were quiet and healing. Grandma Louise didn't push or question. She simply made space. Space for me to sleep, to eat, to cry when the weight became too heavy. Each morning, we had tea. She liked hers strong with honey and to crackers. I preferred mine lighter, but I never told her. I didn't want to break our new tradition. By mid-February, tiny green shoots appeared in her frost-covered garden. Winter roses are stubborn, Grandma said. They bloom when everything else gives up. She chuckled. Reminds me of someone. Some days, I helped her prune branches or dust off her teacup collection. Other days, I curled up on the couch, sketching whatever came to mind. Drawing helped me breathe again. At night, I wrote in a small notebook I found in a drawer. Not about Jake, not about my parents. I wrote about fear, about little victories, about the baby inside me, and the life I wanted for us both. You don't have to be perfect, Grandma said one morning. You just have to keep going. And I did. I found a part-time job at a small bakery downtown. The owner, Mrs. Keller, was kind. She never asked about my belly or my past. She taught me to frost cupcakes and made sure I ate lunch. It wasn't easy. Some nights, I still cried myself to sleep. Some mornings, fear crept back in. But I was safe. I was growing. And for the first time in weeks, I started to believe I could do this. The day labor started, the August heat pressed against my skin like a warm breath. I was at the kitchen sink when a sharp pain sliced through my back and settled low in my belly. My hands froze in the water. A moment later, my water broke. Grandma, I gasped. She appeared instantly, car keys already in hand. Let's go, sweetheart. We've got a little one waiting to meet us. The drive to Springfield Mercy Hospital was a blur of contractions and deep breaths. I held her hand the whole way. In the delivery room, time folded in on itself. The pain came in waves until I could barely scream anymore. Nurses moved around us calmly, but all I focused on was Grandma's steady hand on my shoulder, and her voice in my ear. You're doing fine, Maddie. Just breathe. You're almost there. And then he arrived. A tiny miracle with a full head of dark hair and fists ready to fight the world. They laid him on my chest. Elijah, I whispered, the name I'd written in my notebook over and over. It meant the Lord is my strength. But to me, it simply meant home. I looked at Grandma. For the first time in months, tears filled her eyes. Happy tears. In that moment, I knew I wasn't just a scared girl anymore. I was a mother. 20 years slipped by, quiet and steady like the changing seasons. Maple Falls became home. In every sense, I never left. I grew my part-time bakery job into my own business, Hayes Hearth, named for the warmth I wanted every customer to feel the moment they walked through the door. Elijah grew up with flour dusting his cheeks and the smell of cinnamon trailing behind him. He earned a scholarship to study architecture in the city. But every Sunday, no matter what, he came home for dinner. One rainy October afternoon, a knock sounded at the door. When I opened it, I didn't expect to see them. My parents. They looked older, smaller. My mother's hands trembled around a faded umbrella. My father's voice cracked when he asked, "Is this a bad time?" Elijah stood beside me, tall and strong, carrying his father's chin and my eyes. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. Instead, I turned to my son. Elijah, these are your grandparents. They've come a long way. Maybe they have something to say. For once, I let the silence speak. Some wounds don't heal, but some hearts grow anyway. I didn't rebuild my life to prove anything to those who left me behind. I rebuilt it so I could live fully, honestly, without shame. That evening, my parents sat at my kitchen table, sipping tea from the chipped cups Grandma Louise had once collected. And I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore, not because they deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Grandma Louise had passed 5 years earlier. She never met Elijah as a grown man, never saw the bakery expand, never got to sit on the porch swing we rebuilt in her honor. But she left me something more lasting than advice or shelter. She gave me a foundation, a chance to grow roots in the very soil where I'd once felt discarded. And now, when women walk into my bakery with tired eyes or trembling hands, I smile the way Grandma used to and say, "You're safe here." Because sometimes, revenge isn't about fighting back. It's about rising gently, quietly, and showing the world